Are you able just to explain what the criteria is for being eligible for
Yeah,
legal aid and how that works?
I'm going to explain it as simply as I can, just to start with, because the danger is you can get into a sort of soul destroying detail about it. And there are sort of about five, the legal aid agency have come up with about five different guidances, which are difficult, and they've all got things like how you define the little minutiae. But to keep it simple, you're eligible for legal aid provided, say, in homelessness work, if you're at risk of losing your home or you are homeless in the sense that we've been talking about unsuitable accommodation, you are, that's within scope, so there's no need to worry about that. So then you've got the financial side of it, which is that you are eligible for legal aid if you've got a disposable monthly income of less than £733 and you have capital or savings of not more than £8,000. If you're getting universal credit, or what used to, I mean, it's getting more distant in the memory now, but income support, and remember, income related employment support allowance. And what was the other one that was income related?
The JSA, income related JSA,
Job
wasn't it?
seekers allowance. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. See, my memories, I'm losing track of these things. But if you were on those are what's called passported benefits. So if you can show that you're correctly getting those benefits, and note they use the word correctly getting, they don't ask you any more questions about your income. Whereas if you're working, you have to show them all your wage slips, and it's more difficult. But the good thing is that most of the people I'm dealing with, I mean, if from my point of view, legal aid point of view, are on universal credit. So as soon as they've said that,
So with that,
they
so say you're on universal credit, but you're working part time, so you're working 20 hours a week or something. So you still get some UC. If you're receiving any UC, you're automatically passported for legal aid. Okay, cool.
yeah. I never
Yeah.
thought I'd say this, but I'm really, really grateful to Ian Duncan Smith for what he did in bringing this benefit in, just from this point of view. And I know there are many other reasons for not liking Ian Duncan Smith or Universal Credit, but on this one, he's made my life so much easier and the life of so many people who want legal aid easier. Because in the old days, as you say, if you were working, I mean, a lot of those benefits meant that you were either working, you were unemployed or you were employed. And if you're employed, you didn't get those benefits, because by definition, job seekers, you've got a job. So what you, but this is great, because if you're working, but your income, and there's so many people now who are on low zero contracts, all that sort of stuff, they're still eligible. So no questions asked. The only question that is asked, sorry, is one, which is, are you appropriately getting it? So if, you know, when you talk about homelessness, there's always somebody who says, oh, there's a bloke who begs outside the tube station. And at the end of the day, you see him driving off in a Rolls Royce. And more fool all the people that give him. You heard that one?
Yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if somebody came to the office and said, I'm on universal credit, you know, but they were sort of wearing a huge amount of gold jewelry and went off in a Rolls Royce, then the legal aid agency would say, well, you should have spotted this person was dodgy. And so, but as long as I haven't got any, I mean, most of the time I don't have any reason to believe, because I don't know what they do when they're not talking to me. And I mean, I do try to check, but you have to provide proof of your income. So you have to provide your bank statements. So if you're getting what's called legal help, that's 1 month's bank statements for all accounts which you and your partner have. And if you're going for a full legal aid certificate, it's 3 months. And the legal aid agency will go through those and look for any dodgy transactions.
What's the difference? Was that jargon in terms of full
sorry
legal
about
aid? So what's the difference between those two things?
Yeah, legal help and legal aid. Really important distinction. If somebody comes to a solicitor with a problem which they want advice and assistance about, that they can sign up for initial help under the legal help scheme. If they have a court case where they need somebody to go to court for them, they need to get a full legal aid certificate. So, for instance, if somebody's got a homelessness review, most of the homelessness work is done under legal help, because it usually is a question of writing to the council and saying, are you sure this is right? And they say, most of the time they'll say, oh, sorry about that, made a mistake or something, and it's sorted. But if you got to the end of a Section 202 review and it had to go to an appeal in the county court, then you'd go for a full certificate. And similarly, if they were refusing to give temporary accommodation, you sent them a pre-action letter and they said, sorry, we're still not going to give it, you would then go for a legal aid certificate to go for a judicial review, because those are both court proceedings. So you can sign these legal help forms and just provide limited proof of income. Although it does have to be, and you would be amazed how difficult it is for people to provide all the proof of income, because people forget. You say, I want all your bank accounts. And so you get a bank account, and then the legal aid agents are going to look on the statements and say, oh, look, there's a transfer to William's other account. And it'll then, I forgot, I've got a savings account. Or then there's the other one, but I don't use that very much. But the legal aid agency, if they see that there's another account and I haven't got proof of it, I won't. And on legal help, I don't get paid till the end of the case, and they assess whether I've done the means assessment correctly. So they will pay me nothing just because I didn't check that bank statement. So I have to go through these things like a sort of detective at the beginning, although I've managed to delegate that to somebody else now. But from the client's point of view, as long as they can provide the proof, legal aid is quite straightforward in that there's just those two figures. And as I say, universal credit, no questions asked other than are you genuinely getting entitled to it?
Which I guess is probably, again, a subject for another video, but certainly my experience of trying to get a solicitor, like, ringing up solicitors firms saying, look, I've got a guy, he's rough sleeping, I need something today. And I expect for a lot of people who are homeless and need that help, actually, in the real world, it's actually quite difficult to find a solicitor who will take you on. And in one sense, some solicitors firms may just look for those easy wins that kind of pay more for the.
Well, I've put a list on my blog. I've put a list in the resources section of solicitors in the London area who will take on legal aid housing work. But the problem is, and those are the good ones I can recommend in good conscience. There are others that I wouldn't necessarily wish people to go to. But the ones that are good, the problem is that they may not have capacity, and some of them may be a bit naughty and be cherry picking, which they shouldn't really do. That they'll say, well, we won't bother taking on the legal help cases. We'll just take on the full certificate, because they pay a bit better, the full certificate cases. So come back and see us if things, the old wait till you get your eviction.
And just to say this into the void or whatever, in my mind, in the world of kind of post-COVID, we all got Zoom, we can, certainly kind of much easier to kind of communicate. In my mind, those London solicitors would be work. It would be a good thing for them to focus on councils outside of London, because it's dead easy a lot of the time to actually win cases. But also, if we could, it's probably a much more effective way of pushing up standards within the sector. But that's
the legal aid agency have recognised this now, because as long as sort of recently as 5 years ago, I think they were still a bit unsympathetic if we tried to take on cases outside London, or even outside our particular borough, or whatever the area they divide us into is. But if you look at the map, and we could talk about this another time, there's this map of legal aid deserts, which shows that most of Britain is a legal aid desert now. So if somebody in Newcastle, sorry if there's legal aid solicitor in Newcastle, but if somebody up there wants a solicitor, I mean, there's very little chance. But the good news is, you don't need, if you're in Newcastle and you want to instruct a solicitor in London, you don't have to go down to London to sign the forms like you would have done 5 years ago, or even to take your papers in, because everything can be done remotely now, even scanning documents, although that can cause a few headaches.